when we talk about playing in college, most of the time, especially as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, we're never talking about like playing in JUCO. We're never talking about NEIA or D2. The goal is to play Division One, right? And so, what I want to focus on tonight is Division One being goals. And when we talk about um, like I want to play Division One, the first thought becomes, what do I need to do to get there? Right? Has anyone ever asked themselves that question? What do I need to do to get there? Right? And so the second we say, what do we have to do to get there? There's this element of pressure and time. I only have so much time, and this is all the things I got to do to get there. And that's fine because that's important. But what's even more important is who do you get to become along the way? If you want to become a Division One player, there are things that you have to say yes to that the average athlete doesn't. There are things that you have to say no to that the average athlete doesn't. And so that's what I want to really focus on tonight is who do you get to become because of the goals you've set? If you want to be D1, well, who do I have to / who do I get to become because of that? Okay, so I'm going to kind of give it away, and I want you to write this down. You get to become your best friend / ally / teammate. And Teo, I think I lost your video. If you can pop back on. If you can't, that's fine. But when you can, pop back on.
Yeah, my fault. I'm trying to do this on another
Okay,
screen. Not
cool,
like
cool. Yep,
yeah.
take your time. So when you hear that, to become your best ally, because if you heard Mateo said stop beating himself up after mistakes. Does your best ally beat yourself up? If you're your best ally, no. What do? I don't beat myself up. I build myself up. And I'm not going to get ahead of myself because there's a lot that we're going to talk about in this tonight. But a lot of you said, I want to have confidence. Well, this piece right here, who do I get to become because of the goals I have? When you choose to become your best ally, you're choosing to bring all the confidence that you have, everything that you have. Because a lot of times, let's say you're a baseball player and you're 0 for 2 and the guy's still on the mound, you're walking to the plate and you're already beating yourself. Well, you're bringing your batting average down at the same time as you're bringing the ERA of the pitcher down, just by how you're thinking. Okay, so I want to share this thought with you, and I want you to write this down, and I'll say it a couple times. We are where we are because what we believe about ourselves. We are where we are because of what we believe about ourselves. Basically, the stories we tell ourselves. So I'm going to be writing on here. So here's your current believing. And let's call this D1 believing right here, desired believing. We need to figure out how we bridge this gap right here from where you currently, the believing is your confidence. And if you think of the word believing, there's an ing on the end. Because I can believe in myself one time, something bad happens, and then my confidence is gone. Anyone ever have that? Call that fragile confidence. Believing, ing in the English language is an ongoing present moment action. It means no matter what happened, I can continue to believe. Right? Who would like to have that kind of rock solid believing? Where no matter what happens, I can still believe I'm the best in this moment. Okay? So that's kind of what we're going for. And we're looking for that shift. But some things have to happen in order to go from where you're at currently to where you want to be. And it's the way you see yourself. So if you think about, has anyone in here ever been going so well, things are going so well, all of a sudden this little thought pops in your head like, how do I keep this going? Like, I'm I'm good, but I'm not this good. Anybody ever have a hot streak like that? Okay. And then on the flip side, have you ever been like playing so poor you're like, oh my gosh, pick it up, like I know you're better than this? Anyone have that thought? Okay, so what's interesting is we have this internal thermostat of how good we are, and our unconscious, our subconscious, it actually is constantly regulating your performance to what is comfortable. Okay, so like for me right now, my thermostat in my house is set to like 75. I like 75. Okay, and if it goes below, if an air conditioner, if it goes below 75, okay, the heat kicks on to get me back to my comfort level. Okay, if it gets too hot, the AC kicks on and it brings me back to my comfort level. So what I'm getting at is you have a comfort level that you're used to. And all we're trying to do is take it, that's your current comfort level. I want to push you to that D1 comfort level to where when you're having success, it feels normal. Okay, who works out in here? Anyone lift weights? Okay, the weights that you lift today, are those the same weights that you were lifting a year ago? No, but the weights that you were lifting a year ago were heavy, and now it might be your warm up because you worked at it. You broke through a threshold and you have a new threshold. Well, the mental game is the same way. When you start to believe that you're as good as you believe you could be, all of a sudden your threshold rises. And those negatives, they'll still be there, but it's at a higher level. And I'll show you what that means in a second. So, how do we start to shift this athletic identity or how we believe about ourselves? Well, there are 3 places where we get our identity from. Okay, 3 places. So we have positive and negative others. We have an inner critic, and I'm writing on an iPad, so I will do my best to spell well and legibly, but I'll also be saying it audibly. So, and then we have our inner coach, okay? 3 places where we get ideas, 3 voices that we hear. So what's interesting is none of those voices are actually you. We understand that others' voices aren't you. But when you hear that inner critic, and we'll kind of go into what that is, when you hear that inner coach, we'll get into what that is. We think that's us, but it's actually not. You know why? Because I can hold my inner critic right here and say, you know what? I hear you, but I'm not going to listen to you. Okay, so that's how I know that's not me. So you are the conclusion you come to about yourself from these 3 different sources. Does that make sense so far? Okay, so let's go into each of those. One second here. Okay, I think Tim got kicked out. He's coming back in. So let's go into each of those and look at how these voices are impacting what you believe about yourself. So, real quick, Cannon, let's go to negative others. What are some negative others, some negative voices you hear from others that impact what you believe about yourself?
So negative impact from others, correct?
Yep, correct. Negative others.
Teammates pushing me down or coaches getting on me. That is sometimes it'll push me down and make me think worse about myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
How about you, Amari?
Whenever a call I could say doesn't go my way, and then my coaches get on me for it because maybe I'm like complaining about it, it kind of gets me down.
Okay. So more coaches. Okay. And Tay, I'll get to you in a second. How about social media? You ever look at social media and get discouraged comparing yourself to others? Okay. So let's just take those 3. Negative others. Those are the influences. So those are influences of people, kind of Cannon said it, that make you feel, let's just say, less than. Okay, and then we have positive others. Teo, tell me about the positive others in your life and what they cause you to feel or believe about yourself.
Like if a coach says you did a great job on this play, it can make you think a lot more of yourself.
Okay, so we do have positive coaches, which is good. What else?
Probably the same thing with teammates. like
Yep.
teammates, congratulating you.
Yep. Okay. And I'm going to put parents in both categories because I've had parents in both categories. Okay. So let's look at that real quick. Negative and positive others have a major impact on what you believe about yourself. This is where that kind of comparison comes in, where when I was growing up, it was just local. Now you have to grow up and you see kids across the globe and you're comparing yourself. And that is often one of the worst things we can do. And we'll get into that in a bit. But now I want to go look at this inner critic, okay? Inner critic, it's another voice. In this voice, put this fall short. This inner critic that you have, we all have it. It shows us all the ways that we're falling short, that we're not good enough. Anyone ever have perfectionistic tendencies that it's just, you're never good enough? You want to deal with that? Okay. So writing down fall short, and then, so we have stories or fiction. Okay. Fiction, there's stories. They're not the truth that your mind makes up, and then it tells you. And we'll get into why that is, why your inner critic does that in a bit. Okay? Your inner critic is motivated by fear. And then it points out all the problems and failures. Okay? Just speaking to anybody so far? Does anyone have an inner critic that they're pretty familiar with? So I'm going to actually put that word familiar. And then our inner coach. So remember that inner critic, it can sound like us. It sounds just like us. It's been with us our whole life. It knows all of our weaknesses, okay? And we often listen to that. But we also have a third voice, an inner coach, okay? And an inner coach shows us all the possibilities. Shows us what's possible. Possible. Our inner coach reminds us what's possible. And our inner coach, it works off of facts or truth. It shows us what's really there. This is worth writing down on a side somewhere, okay? There's two goals of an athlete. Two goals of an athlete. If you do these two things every single play, you give yourself the best chance of succeeding. Ready? Number one, understand what is true about the moment. Understand what is true about the moment. And then make the right best move. Understand the situation so that you can make the right next move. We'll get more into that later, but as these thoughts pop up, I may forget them, so I need you to write them down, okay? So I'll give you an example. Bases are loaded, nobody's out, you're on the mound. You've given up a cheap hit, you've given up a walk, and you've hit a guy. My inner critic says, you suck, what are you doing? You don't even belong on the mound. One more thing and you're gonna get pulled. Anyone ever hear that before? Okay? My inner coach, when I have built my inner coach, says this, guess what? No one scored yet. Your ERA is 0.00. If you get a ground ball to third base, triple play, we're out of it. We're hanging out in the dugout drinking some Gatorade. Do you see the difference there? One is true, one is false. As in, one is a lie. I'm not an idiot. I don't suck. Sometimes I walk guys. Sometimes I hit guys. Sometimes people get cheap hits off of me. Right? That's what's true. And so what happens is, unfortunately, this is often the foreign voice. This is often the voice that is just kind of silenced because we feed off of our inner critic. And what we feed grows strong. And what we don't feed dies. And so right now, what we're going to do is we're going to do some percentages over here. Okay, so this is a little bit of the interactive stuff. Again, I know parents, you're not really doing this, but I hope that you are kind of taking notes in your own life of where this stuff lands with you. So what I would like you to do, and again, about the vulnerability piece, I'm just asking you to be vulnerable. Okay, so we have negative others, positive others, then we have our inner critic, and we have our inner coach. Okay, so it's got to equal 100. I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock, and I want you to give your percentages based on how we've looked at this. What are your percentages that make up your belief system about where you're at currently? What weight does the influence of others, positive and negative? How much do you basically, who gets the say in your brain? Who has the microphone in your brain? Okay, so 30 seconds. Okay, and then in the chat, real quick, all right, just we have 3, so we can do this probably quicker. Amari, give me your numbers starting with positive others or negative others.
In chat or like right now?
Just out loud is probably quicker.
Okay. So negative others, I'd probably say about 15%.
Okay.
And then positive others, I give it a 30%.
Okay.
And then inner critics, that's probably 30. And then
Okay.
inner coach is the other.
What was that 15, 25?
Yeah.
Something like that, I believe. Okay. Cannon. And again, this is vulnerability. Don't try to impress somebody. I want you to be honest with yourself. You are not doing this for anybody else but for you tonight. All right, Cannon, you got the floor.
So for outer negatives, 10%. I don't like to listen to people who talk bad about me. Other positives are 20%. Inner critics is 55%. I talk down and lack confidence a lot. And inner positive critics is probably about 10%.
Okay. Thank you for being honest. Teo.
I did outer negatives at 10%. I did outer positives at 40. And then I did inner critic negative at I did that at 10 because I really don't like to think of anything negative, even if it's going bad. And then I did the inner positive 40.
Beautiful. Okay. So here is where the typical athlete is. Okay. I'm just being honest. Last time I did this call, I have a kid who's going to Cal Berkeley, play shortstop next year, and his inner critic was at 60%. So everyone's different, but the typical athlete who wants to play at the D1 level is looking at something like this. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm not bashing Amari's or Mateo's. I'm just going to use this because this is more of the, but I still want you to use yours as we start to change these. So what we just did, everyone, is we built awareness, okay? Who has a little bit more awareness of where their belief system comes from or their idea about themselves comes from, okay? But what's the point of having awareness if we don't start to understand how to change this? So I need you to write this word down, okay? The way we change this is we have to change our perspective. We change our perspective on these things because let's be honest, when we're looking at others, the negative others, can I change? Let's see, I have a chat thing here. Okay, Cannon's telling me his math is wrong. It's all good. This is a math class. You're all right. Can I change other people? I cannot change other people. Can I change social media? No. But what can I do? I can begin to change my perspective of them. I can begin to change my perspective of these others. So let's take teammates, for example. Okay? You will have negative teammates. You will have selfish teammates. Hopefully, you're not one of those. But there will be negative people either in your dugout, on your sideline, or on the other team. There will be negative people. I cannot change them, but I can change my perspective of them. I know I'm driving this home, but I need you to understand what's in your control, what's out. If I can't change them, I can begin to change my perspective of them. And so I'm going to do most of the answering here. Other players, where are they trying to get to? The same place you are. They're trying to get to the same place you are. And so if someone is playing over you that you don't feel like they deserve it, guess what? They're trying to get to the same place you are. So understanding that you're all in the same boat will help you say, guess what? It's their turn right now. I will have my turn. Okay? And some people, if they're mean, if they're rude, if they put you down, guess what? They're humans. They have fear. A lot of the time, they're afraid. So they're trying to find a way to get under your skin. Because you may be the better player, but if they can get at you, they might have that chance. So if you can start to understand where they're coming from, it has a less of an impact on you. And obviously, you cannot change your teammates, but can you hang out with different people? Can you hang out at the other end of the sideline or whatever it might be? Yeah. So you can't change them, but you can change a little bit of your environment and you can change your understanding or your perspective of where they're at and why they're doing what they're doing. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up if that makes sense? Okay. And then coaches. Guess what? Negative coaches are going to happen. They're not going to change unless they take some course and they actually buy in that, wow, maybe belittling this kid is not the best thing, right? You cannot change your coach's behavior, but you can understand where they're coming from, that they were taught a certain way and that that's the way they're going to teach. Also, if you're not getting playing time, guess what? It's because a coach, a good coach, will put the best guys out there that will help him in, who he believes will get him a W. Okay, so if that's not you right now, you can't change. You can influence it by making his decision very difficult. Make his decision very difficult to sit you. So instead of complaining, instead of doing all that, say, guess what? I got to make this guy's decision really hard today. So all of a sudden, so negative teammates, we've taken care of them. Negative coaches, we've taken care of them. Understanding that, guess what? They're also human. Not everyone's a great person. Okay, and then social media, if that's something that really bothers you, if you go to settings, you scroll all the way down, there's this big red button. It says delete account. If that really impacts you that much, get off social media. Even if it's for a week, you will see the anxiety just melt. You will see joy and excitement in life come back because you're living life rather than on a screen. So those are ways that we cannot change those things, but we can change our perspective of those. So when you change your perspective of those, all of a sudden this number right here should go down. Okay? Which gives us room for it to go in another category, like positive others or inner coach. Okay, I hope this one right here is going to blow you away. Inner critic. Inner critic, it beats you up. It tells you where you fall short. It tells you you're not good enough, that you're not doing enough. All of these things. You know what your inner critic really is? It's just a bully. And if you know anything about bullies, we know that bullies are actually the most insecure people, that they bully you because they're being bullied, most likely. And so check this out. Your inner critic is one of the most valuable things in your life. Its only job is to keep you alive. Like straight up, outside of sports, your inner critic, it exists to keep you alive. And if you translate to that sports world, your inner critic's only goal is to keep your sports career alive. I need this one to sink in. Your inner critic's only goal is to keep your sports career alive. So some of you said you want to play at the college level. Some of you said if you can, you would like to play at the professional level. The second you believe that and admit that and say it, your inner critic says, okay, we're setting a path. If you detour from that path, I have to beat you up until you get back on, because it has to keep your sports career alive. So if you go 0 for 2 or 0 for 3, or if you miss 3 tackles in a game and it is beating you up, or as in you're beating yourself up, it's because it's scared that you're getting farther away from your goal. Does that make sense? Okay, so we can't change our inner critic. It's going to be there, but we can change our perspective of it and understand that it has our best interest in mind. It's just really good or really bad at showing it or expressing it or executing it. Our inner critic has our best interest in mind, but it does a poor job of expressing it, okay? So if you real quick flip a page down, maybe 2 pages down, where is it? I think on my page, it's here, but on your page, it might be different, where it says problem, failure. Okay, so your inner critic will let you know all the problems that you have. It'll show you all the places you're falling short or you're failing, okay? But your inner coach, it sees a problem as awareness. Awareness and an opportunity. Okay, so as we start to starve our inner critic, that's the whole point. As we start to starve our inner critic, and we start to feed our inner coach, we still have problems, but we start to interpret them as awareness. There's an opportunity to grow. Okay? Our inner critic then, it sees failures. It says, you failed. Well, your inner coach says this, hey, you got experience. You gained data. And if you do the right thing with that experience, it will lead to growth. So your inner critic only wants to give you one out. But your inner coach, it shows you all what's possible, all the possibilities, okay? So where your inner critic sees problems and failures, your inner coach, it has now awareness to growth opportunities, okay? Can I get a thumbs up if that's making sense? Okay. So currently, that inner critic can be very familiar voice. I want it to get to the point where that becomes the foreign voice. Like it's speaking French and you don't know French. And I want that inner coach to become the familiar voice. Okay? That's what we have to listen to. So let me rephrase that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this lady, she's like 80. She just walked across Tennessee. Like she does this every year. There's like this walk where she walks across Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. You have to do it in 10 days. There's a lot that goes into it. She gets done and she's on a podcast, and the podcaster's asking her, what got you through? And she said, when I stopped listening to myself and started talking to myself, that's how I made it through. So where is that inner critic? It's the one that is that we listen to. But if you want to stop listening to that, start talking to yourself. Start talking to yourself. Speak truth into you. Okay. So whenever I have a new client, I always make them use their first name and give themselves a compliment using your first name. Because we beat ourselves up when we use that name. When someone uses our name, it's personal. Our inner critic uses our name. So start using your first name and telling yourself what to do. Start telling yourself what to do. And that's how you're going to build your inner coach. Okay, this is your biggest support system right here. So when we go back to our numbers and we look at this number, when we understand, when we change our perspective about our inner critic, and we understand that it has our best interest in mind, that is only trying to save our career, you see how we can understand and almost have empathy or sympathy for it? And understand that we no longer have to listen to it, but we can still value it and say, guess what? You present problems. And now I have the awareness to where I can start to change those into opportunities and grow from them. So do you see how your relationship with your inner critic can begin to change? Okay, because we listen to it, we hear it, and we believe it. And that's where we're falling short. So hopefully you now understand some ways to where you can start to lessen that inner critic. Sound good? And when we're lessening our inner critic, we can start to talk to ourselves and build our inner coach. Building our inner coach, the one that provides facts, the one that builds us up, the one that pushes us. And that's how we become our best ally. It has our best interest in mind, and it's motivated by love. Love that I am good enough as a person despite what I do on the field. Whereas my inner critic, who's motivated by fear, is always motivated by you're not good enough. What you're doing is not good enough. So when we do something, it's out of fear, which is like anxiety and stress. Whereas love, it's the joy of doing my sport because I love my sport, right? Rhetorical question, but do you play better when you're playing from fear or love? I love to be in this moment. Or, oh, you better get the job done, right? Which one do you play better from? So your job is to start to strengthen your inner coach and to start to starve the inner critic, because while the inner critic is valuable, it's helpful, it's usually telling you stories, it's telling you lies that we tend to believe, okay? So there was your current believing, and now you've just shown yourself ways to take your current believing to your desired believing. As you start to build your inner coach, you're going to start to step into that belief system that number one, you are good enough. So number one, how do I step into a D1 belief system? Number one, it's so simple. You give yourself permission to believe that you're good enough. I know it sounds stupid, but try it. Give yourself permission that you are good enough to get where you're striving to go. That you can believe in yourself. And I know believing in yourself sounds cliche, but hopefully we've gotten a little bit of roots. We've gotten some depth so far tonight. That it is a little bit deeper, okay? Number two, just you. I used to end my calls with, I believe in you. I don't do that anymore because guess what? No matter how much I believe in you, it doesn't matter even a little bit. You have to believe in you. All that matters is your belief in you. Everyone in a stadium can believe in you, but if you don't believe in you, all that other belief doesn't matter. Just like when someone says, I'm sending you good luck or wishes, what is that, right? All that matters is that you believe in you, which is great because you don't need anyone else to believe in you. Is it nice when others believe in you? Absolutely. It can be very helpful. But if I don't have that and I'm banking on it, guess what? That's fragile confidence. You have to believe in your preparation, your hard work, everything that's gone into what you're doing or about to do. That's what you have to believe in. You don't need anyone else's permission. And number three, hold on, I have a note here. I need you to believe it where you're striving to go. I need you to believe that before anybody else. You have to believe that you're going to get where you want to go before anybody else. Because when you get there, there's going to be people that said, oh, yeah, I believed in you. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's going to be people who's like, what's a scholarship? And there's going to be people who just don't care. So all that matters is that you believe in you. You don't need anyone else. Make sense? Okay?